audio courtesy of Fox News or USA Radio News. I'm Tim Burr.
Absolute insanity.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
This is not America. Sha-la-la-la-la. Little piece of you.
Let us all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the Fauci of the United States of America and to the democracy for which he stands, one nation, under science, anti-racist, with obedience, responsibility, and collective safety for all.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's a new CDC, follows the CDC guidelines.
Yeah. Why can't you find him on a meat hook someplace?
And then there's a little note on it that says, after COVID, you can substitute Mother Gia for Fauci, you know, because we're going to roll it into the global warming scenario. Yep.
The permanent lockdown?
The permanent lockdown. The Great Reset.
Yeah.
Well, of course, the dominant news story of the last weekend is America's longest war is finally over.
I look forward to those stadium stonings.
Yes.
There's going to be some stadium stonings, aren't there?
We got to see that, yeah. I hope they'll televise it.
Yeah. Pay-per-view, that kind of thing.
George W. Bush's legacy destroyed in a matter of weeks, no days. And, you know, contrary to President Biden, all the bombers and nukes the U.S. had is unable to stop a bunch of militias armed with small arms and shoulder rockets.
Taming the Taliban.
Taming the Taliban. And then Raytheon had the lack of common sense to tweet out how much money they made during the Afghan war.
They can't just be happy.
No,
in their
they had to
industrial
tell
military
everybody.
complex. They've got to shout it to the highest steeples.
But then all these pictures of the Taliban with captured tanks and cannons and helicopters, that's not going to go down well. No.
Oh, yeah, it hasn't already.
No. Hey, long live the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan.
Think about what we left at Bagram.
Yeah, no.
And then they came in, what on their little two-wheel drive vehicles, and
Yeah.
I mean, it was just pathetic. The most pathetic thing ever.
You know, there were more people shot to death in multiple shootings in 3 U.S. cities that were shot and killed in Kabul this weekend.
And that's every weekend.
Yes,
Yeah.
every weekend. And the Chinese snarked that the Afghanistan transition of power was smoother than the U.S. transition after the last election.
They're probably proud of that, though.
Yeah. There were more questions asked at the Taliban press conference than at all of Biden's press conferences combined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least they took some questions, huh?
And when asked about censorship, the Taliban spokesman said, ask Facebook about that.
This is CNN.
Or CNN.
Or CNN.
Yeah.
So these guys have a chance to be for the right in the 2020s what the North Vietnamese were to the left in the 1960s. I mean, you just got to laugh.
And it's a living experience, too.
Right.
I mean, it's not over. This disaster is the gift that just keeps on giving.
Oh, sure. But, you know, the conservatives are all running around unsure what to say. Dan Bongino was thumping his breast like a gorilla this
because
morning.
they never realized from the outset how stupid it was to stay.
I know.
It was one thing to go after Osama bin Laden. It was another
Right.
to, set up camp.
Right, exactly.
20 years and $1 trillion.
Oh, jeez.
This is the result.
Somebody said today there's 600,000 homeless. You could give them all $1,000 a month for $7 billion a year.
It wouldn't matter to the defense establishment.
I know. And then the people that died at the airport, some clinging to the airplane cargo doors, and then one body was found in the landing gear housing when the cargo plane landed.
Did you see Trump on Hannity last night?
No, I missed that.
He was very good.
Was he?
Oh, I mean, he was just razor sharp, and that he said that clearly reveals just how more significant this was than the fall of Saigon in 1975. I mean, we all remember that.
Oh,
those
yeah.
of us who were alive,
Right. Well, it was like Saigon, because Saigon, they were falling off the helicopter, and then now they were dropping off the cargo plane, and one poor soul.
But hundreds of feet up.
Yeah, hundreds
I
of feet.
remember that there were a few that dropped off the helicopter, but they were only 10 or 20 feet off
That's
the ground.
right. They were on top. They were getting off of a roof, so they were.
I think it was an embassy or
Yeah,
some-
embassy roof. Yeah, yeah. So the Taliban is saying they're going to follow Islamic law. Now, as far as women goes, whether that's any more tolerant than Wahhabi Sharia law, we're going to see. But
Well, they were prepared for all contingencies.
right. I mean, all these
Lion,
crocodile
dog, face, pony,
tears
soldier.
by the neocons and neolibs about the women. There's no concern for the women of Palestine, Iraq, Yemen, Somalia. If you really want to help women, you drop bombs on them. That's how you help women.
Mm-hmm.
And then these people, if there should be truth and reconciliation commissions, it should be about all the generals who outright lied, and the State Department officials
For 20 years.
for 20 years.
Yeah.
To keep the grift going.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're all looking forward to that being on the board of Raytheon and Halliburton and all those other companies, Lockheed Martin.
But now a countervailing theme, which I'm hearing from Jack Keane and Crenshaw and some of these
Yeah.
erstwhile neoconservatives is that, we need a residual presence. Now, wouldn't it be interesting if the administration, because I understand they're under lock and key today in the White House, they're all there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the defense secretary,
General Miley.
everybody is there. If they decide they're going to go back in for a while and clean things up.
They would be insane. I mean, do you really want more Americans to die?
You send in the 82nd Airborne.
Yeah, really. If they put troops into Kabul, that's going to be a violation, and the Taliban is going to shoot at them, and American kids are going to die.
To be sitting ducks.
Yeah,
if they were to come in out of the sky like
There'll
that.
be dozens, maybe hundreds of them killed.
Which may have been the reason why he let go of Bagram so quickly.
Yes.
He didn't want any casualties of the military.
Uh-huh.
To hell with the civilians that are left
No,
behind.
no.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now, back to the show.
Well, this is Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor. I'm here with Leland Faegre, and not on the board, but behind the board is Shannon Lawson.
I'm not going to touch it this week.
So, after Vietnam, the country went through what the elites called the Vietnam syndrome, that we didn't want any more Americans to die overseas, and we became dreaded isolationists. Yes. Mm-hmm. So
For a little while.
Yeah, for a little while, until we found another excuse to throw some, small country up against the wall just because we can. So they must be fearing an Afghanistan syndrome is going to happen, and
You mean the establishment is
yeah,
fearing
the
that.
establishment is yeah.
But I mean, there is a story on Mises this morning saying that it won't be long. It's just exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Before they can't help themselves from being arrogant about
Exactly.
their pursuit of globalism. Basically, is what it is.
Yes.
And so it won't be long
No.
before they.
There'll be some kind of disaster, and some poor minority that has to be rescued, or some.
But the question is then who wants to partner with us going forward?
Exactly. I mean,
Even Boris.
I mean, we all know that North Korea was leery after what happened to Gaddafi about giving up the nukes, and what are they going to do now after we, how many people have we left in the dust? I mean, I certainly it goes back to the first Iraq War with the Marsh people in Iraq.
Well, I mean, is there anyone or any entity that we haven't unfriended over the course of, the CIA's history?
Yeah, I mean,
there hasn't been an exception, I don't think.
No, I mean the Kurds. I mean, we can't give the Kurds what we said that we would, and
Or you do it like Ghani.
Yeah, I mean,
the Afghan president Ghani, he just leaves town.
Oh yeah, and, according to Russian sources, he had so many cases of money with him, the helicopter couldn't carry him all. They had to dump one over. They found $5 million in that one.
Yeah. We forget that Afghanistan had a central bank.
Yeah.
So that means they had a
But
printing press.
Former President Ashraf Ghani, he's got a book out. It's called Fixing Failed States. It's on discount now on Amazon.
Oh,
10%
is it?
off.
Oh, wow. Stock up for the
You
holidays.
got to rush. Makes a great Christmas gift.
That's tougher. Oh, man.
But it's so typical. I mean, the South Vietnamese government was corrupt to the hilt. Look at Ukraine. Now we're leaving Ukraine to the IMF and the EU. They're going to be raped over there.
And Vietnam has a stock market, and they're getting on with their history.
Because we got totally out. We didn't leave any residual force.
That's right.
That's the only way to do it. Mm-hmm. And if I was going to give Biden some props for his speech, and if he doesn't go back on it, then I'll be really mad. But he actually gave a good speech.
Oh, you mean?
Yeah, he laid it out. He said we can stay and be involved for another generation,
on the
or
basic
we can
points,
leave.
the basic predicate. Yeah, absolutely. No, it was the same points of action that Trump laid out and that Ron Paul has laid out over the years.
You're right.
He just didn't carry it out well.
Exactly.
Nope.
Well, that's not the first pullout he's botched. The first one gave us Hunter Biden.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Say what?
In 48 years, yeah. I mean, what has this guy been doing? And did he ignore the leadership, his staff? I mean, he apparently got points from all quarters about how to do this.
They were lying, I guess. They didn't. They thought they would roll him like they rolled everybody else.
Or is this what infirmity looks like?
Yeah, it could be. It could be that he's senile, but I'm sure they weren't telling him the truth. I'm sure he was sincere when that's what he thinks the Second Amendment is futile for, because he thinks, if there's a civil war, the American government has all the army and the planes and the nukes.
Checkmate.
Yeah. Yeah. But this shows it can be done. It may take 20 years, but it could be done. Yes.
Well, I'm still interested in the possibility of how they're going to resolve this, because they have a huge problem on their hands.
Yeah.
With as many thousands of Americans and Afghans who tied their destinies to us, have to be dealt with. We can't leave them behind.
Well, can we resettle some of them in Pakistan? I don't feel comfortable bringing 100,000 refugees in.
I think it's going to take the 82nd Airborne.
Whatever, I'll do what I want.
No, I mean the Taliban is letting foreigners at least go to the airport. They're not stopping the foreigners from being evacuated.
Apparently, there are some getting out.
There are their own people. That might be a different story. Mm-hmm. But they claim that they're all the embassies should stay. They're not going to harm any embassies, so that's better than us. I mean,
We closed
We
ours.
ransacked the Venezuelan embassy. We stole the San Francisco embassy from the Russians, and during the war in Serbia, we bombed the Chinese embassy. So if they hold to that, they'd be better than we have been.
Well, you'd love to be a fly on the wall this morning with everybody in that room, huh?
Yeah.
Just what the hell are we going to do? Basically, that's how the gavel was pounded.
Mm-hmm.
And where does it go from here? I think by the time we get home this afternoon from the show, there'll be some developments.
There'll be something, yeah. Mm-hmm. General Miley will say, he's a student of white rage. He doesn't know anything about.
He doesn't seem to know anything. And none of them spoke during this whole episode.
Right.
They were all somewhere else.
Yep.
Not that they always.
Kamala actually sounded like a human being. I mean, she said that she agreed with Biden's decision, and she almost sounded sincere. I mean, it was different than I've ever seen her speak.
Really? I saw something else on the Gateway Pundit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it was a paraphrased statement, but they're not going to pin this excrement on me.
Oh, yeah.
Words to that effect.
Well, maybe that's why she was so happy that Biden took responsibility for it.
But I mean, she should be the most outspoken if there's any legitimacy to this claim that we should be concerned about the women we left behind.
Right.
She's nowhere to be found.
No, she's nowhere to be found.
She's laughing at that.
Yeah. But what they're trying to tell you is that, the Taliban are going to attack us. There's no reason for. They weren't international terrorists when they took over the country. We call them terrorists.
Hardly. I mean, Did you hear what that Mullah Baradar said?
Is the new president?
Effectively, I mean, if there's such a thing as a title, he said, we have reached a victory that wasn't expected. Well, that's an ultimate irony, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
He just shows up and the place is vacant.
Okay, so the conservatives are going to say that the Taliban's going to attack us because they hate us for our freedoms. But there's a Democratic candidate for Congress that served over in Afghanistan. I think he's running in Missouri. So
Did he sign that list to
I'm not sure.
requesting
I just
Biden's
saw an
head?
interview with him, but
Yeah.
there's
a long list of them.
He came out and said, if we're not there, they have no reason to attack us. I mean, they're over here because we are over there.
That whole nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. And it took us 20 years to learn that lesson?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing good about this.
No.
Not a thing.
Well, there's nothing good about the empire.
This is where empires go. This is the graveyard of empires.
Right.
Afghanistan.
Right. And Russia, the Soviets actually did a better job. The Taliban fought for 3 years. I mean, not the Taliban, but the Afghan security forces fought for 3 years until Soviet Union collapsed after the Russians pulled their troops out. They had trained their soldiers, but they gave the people something. They gave the people fresh water. They gave the people, they didn't rip off the people like we have.
Well, we've built the internet for them there, and we allowed the Afghan population, if they wanted to tie their destiny to us while we were there.
Yeah.
And we turned their back on them as we left.
But, I think most of the money that we sent over there never reached the Afghan people. I think the Soviets did a better job of improving the lives of the people while they were there, and that's why they fought for them for 3 years after they left.
They just spilled, what was left over to the locals. But I mean, they lost 60 to 70,000 men in their own Afghan army.
Yeah.
So there were lots of casualties over the course of 20 years.
Well, we didn't have any casualties this time.
No.
Just put down the arms and
once they shut down Bagram Air Base, I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, they just walked right in.
Yep.
And the idea that we're going to police them for terrorists is ridiculous. I mean, Russia and China are right there. They're going to police for terrorists. The Chinese don't want any terrorists, and they're coming into Xinjiang. And the Russians don't want any Wahhabis coming into Dagestan and Chechnya. So they're going to police pretty heavily for We're not the only policemen, and the regional actors would do a better job.
You mean our Taliban partners?
Yes.
Well, Jason, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back. It's Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor, and my co-host is Leland Faegre. And, that recall of Governor Newsom is doing pretty well for Larry Elder.
It's front news, and it's going to have earth-shattering consequences because this is California is about 1/7 of the world's economy, total economy. You know what the price of a home in California is?
$800,000.
Average price.
$800,000. Yeah, I saw the interview or the press conference he had. I saw part of it. He had several Chinese
Larry Elder?
American. Yeah, Larry Elder.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, he had several Chinese Americans that were present on the call. I noticed that, and I didn't see all of it, but he says he's going to be law and order, and he's not going to defund the police, and he's not going to have mask mandates and vaccine mandates.
Right.
He said a lot of good things.
Absolutely, and apparently Hispanics are going right along with him. They get it.
Yeah, they get it.
Less apparently persuadable are the Asian and black populations of California, which I find interesting because
Asian too?
Because Asians are very entrepreneurial,
right?
And yet they're apparently not on board yet. But I think Newsom has seen the writing on the wall. Did you see he sold his house?
No, I didn't.
He sold his house this week, and it's on the North Bay, San Francisco's North Bay, somewhere. $6 million. Where's he going to go?
Yeah,
he's obviously leaving the state already.
He's a relative of who? Was it
Nancy Pelosi?
Nancy Pelosi, yeah.
Nancy's his aunt.
Nancy's his aunt. Aunt Nancy, can I have some ice cream from your big refrigerator?
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Yeah. So I think this is really going to be a lot of fun here. It's the 14th, is it? September 14th?
Yeah.
Election day? Yeah. I wish I was still registered to vote in California as I was last year. Even though I've been out of the state.
Don't you still get the ballots?
No, not anymore. I responded to them and said, I shouldn't be on your rolls. I did the responsible thing and let them know that I was still receiving a ballot 14 years after I left the state.
Unbelievable.
It really is.
Well, speaking of Hispanics in California, I thought we should give a little bit of a brush up on what's going on in Latin America, our neighbors to the south. One thing that's happening, speaking of the banks, the central banks that the central bank, the Bank of England, the mother of all central banks, they are refusing to release billions of dollars, $2 billion, in the gold reserves of Venezuela. And the reason, the legal pretext is that random guy, Juan Guaido, is actually the real president of Venezuela. Now, the problem is only the Five Eyes countries actually believe that. I mean, America, Canada, I think Australia, Britain, they're the only ones that hold that. The rest of Europe has abandoned Mr. Guaido. He's no longer the chairman of the National Assembly down there. He doesn't have any real status at all. So if the law lords, they call them the Supreme Court, they call the justices the law lords. And then
that's quite reverential, isn't it?
Yes. So if Guaido has the claim, then I don't know what's going to happen to countries that are going to want store their sovereign assets at the Bank of England. It's a mess. But Venezuela can certainly use the money. They need the money for their own people. So, and then just
I think it's a lost cause. You just can't save that state. It's done. It would require so much reformation that it's just naive to think it could ever happen.
Well, we'll see. Daniel Ortega. Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Oliver North, Iran-Contra, the Sandinistas. Well, he's up for re-election. I think it's this fall. It's soon. And Nicaragua actually appears to be pretty well won, certainly compared to Honduras and Guatemala. Crime rates are low. The country is stable. It's still poor, but it's prosperous compared to some of its neighbors. The children are well-fed and clothed and in school. And, expats can live there for less than $700 a month. It has nice beaches, nice volcanoes. And, I'm going to have to say it's a Catholic country. So, and if you're going to retire to Latin America, you're going to have a lot of religious festivals every weekend. You're going to hear fireworks in the morning and at night. And some cities, you're going to hear church bells going off every hour.
Well, you know what I would do if I were the Biden administration? I'd assign Elliot Abrams to Nicaragua.
Oh, yeah, he could fix it.
Yeah.
Elliot and maybe Kamala, too.
He's so good.
I know, he's so good. But, it's actually, they're assigned it to the U.S. Aide, which is Samantha Power's baby now.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to spend millions of dollars to support the U.S. favored candidates. Primarily, there's a powerful family called the Chamoras. They're going to get most of the money. But it's for their own good. We only interfere in elections if it's for their own good.
Mm-hmm.
So,
since 1947.
Yeah. And how about that president of Mexico, Obrador? So he seems to be pretty based. He says he's not going to mandate vaccines for children. He thinks it's a money grab by the big pharma. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, he is turned out to be, if there's such a thing in Mexico, a rather enlightened leadership.
Yes.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah. And then the Lima group just lost Lima.
No.
Yeah. So the Lima group was that Canadian.
You hate to hear about a thing like that.
Yeah. That Canadian inspired group that went after, that backed up Juan Guaido and backed up, they initiated the coup in Bolivia that lasted for a year before they got restored. But anyway.
Defunct?
They lost Lima. I don't know how they're going to survive.
Wow.
Because Peru, has that new socialist president that beat out that Kiki Fujimori person.
Do I?
So I wonder if she's in jail yet. I know her father is still languishing there. They're not going to set him loose. But so the new Peruvian government said the Lima group is imperialistic and trying to harm the people of Venezuela. So that was another Five Eyes creation. And Trudeau's got an election coming up, too, in the Great White North.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Actually, he's called it early.
Yes.
He didn't have to call the election.
Right. He's calling it.
In the parliamentary systems, they don't have to call an election.
Right.
But he did, so he must know what's coming.
Yep. His best aide, his deputy prime minister, I don't know what they call her. She's Freeland is her name. You know, she's the one whose grandfather was a Nazi and left and came to Canada. But let's not cast aspersions. But
well, you know, those Canadian Nazis, they're everywhere.
They actually are. I mean, they have a lot of.
They love the state, don't they?
Yeah,
they love using government.
They have a lot of Ukrainians that fled, that were sided with the Nazis and fled, after the war. So they have quite a few.
That European right thing?
Yes.
Shut up.
So it looks like the battle lines are being drawn in Latin America to a certain extent. You've got on the left, you've got Venezuela, Peru, Bolivia, Nicaragua, and Cuba. And on the basically on our side, definitely on our side, you've got Colombia, maybe Brazil, maybe Chile, Honduras, because we keep messing with their elections, so they're still on our side. Dominican Republic is pretty much on our side, and Guyana and Suriname, but then there's a bunch of neutral countries: Costa Rica, Panama, Uruguay, Argentina, Paraguay, El Salvador. That they haven't really taken any sides, and then there's the really messed up countries: Guatemala, Haiti, and Honduras. They're really messed up. But Chile looks like it could go more to the left, and Brazil, the former President Lula was freed from prison by the Brazilian courts, and he was exonerated, so he's going to run again. Bolsonaro could lose to him pretty easily. So, well,
that's how it looks right now. But
right, we can see what goes on, but we have to keep an eye and see.
It's like basketball.
Yeah,
you could miss the first 3 quarters because all the action is in the fourth quarter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. But there seems to be some long-term dynamics going on there, especially in the north with Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador now forming a bloc up on the north. So we'll see. We'll see if they work out better for their people. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And then Russia recently sent a cargo plane with 41 tons of humanitarian aid to Cuba. A couple of weeks ago, Senator Rubio said Russia was going to send special ops to Cuba, but we're still waiting to see them land.
We might be left waiting.
So here's the choice. Some people say the USA is finished. It's evil, a has-been, full of hate and injustice. The U.S. Constitution should be trashed and the Bill of Rights abolished. No free speech, no gun ownership. Competition and free markets are bad. We're all too stupid. For our own good, the government must own everything and know all your secrets.
Other people say that America has created the freest, richest, happiest, most generous society that has ever existed in the world. That's why millions of people are desperate to come here and escape their brutal lives in Cuba, Venezuela, North Korea, and 100 other countries.
In America, we have the right to succeed, the right to our own living, the right to have a family, the right to believe in God, the right to have our own ideas, the right to be safe and secure, and the right to be left alone.
Where do you stand? Help us save the Constitution and restore the American dream. Go to SaveMyFreedom.com.
Brought to you by the American Media Council.
This overload.
Shannon Lawson here. Join us for the Nevada Radio Roundup, Fridays at 2 p.m. A good news variety show all about the local scene. The Nevada Roundup, Friday at 2.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now, back to the show.
Well, what time is it? Is it time for...
Is it time for Jews in the News?
Jews in the News.
We'll know when we hear the music, because I really love that music. There it is. Sounds Jewish, doesn't it?
Yeah. All right. Shall we give the mandated ADL disclaimer?
I think we pretty much have to do that.
Yeah, okay. So we recognize that Israel is our greatest ally in the Middle East, and it's the only democracy in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And
Not
they don't
Lebanon.
throw gay people off of roofs.
Not Lebanon.
Not Lebanon.
Oh, okay.
No, Israel. Yeah. And we have to remember all the time, whenever we observe Jewish people behaving badly, we have to remember each and every time it's always our fault.
Yep.
Okay. So we've had the disclaimer out of the way. Now, guess what? How many Jews have been in the news this last week? Well,
not too many, I don't think.
Well, the first one was Susan Wojcicki.
Oh, yeah, well, her.
She's the woman at CNN's who banned, or YouTube, who banned Senator Rand Paul, who was a medical doctor, from YouTube for a week for stating the truth about masks and COVID. And you know what? But for some coincidence, she just happens to be Jewish.
Huh. What are the odds?
I don't know. It's another coincidence. The world is full of coincidences.
It's definitely true.
And then we had another case of Jewish obscurantism. Do you remember Axios journalist Jonathan Swan?
Yep.
Best known for that interview with then President Trump in August 2020, when he and the president got into an argument about the COVID statistics.
He's actually Australian, isn't he?
Well,
I think he has Australian origins.
Well, he was one of those people tweeting about how sad he was about the defeat of feminism in Afghanistan. And so, he doesn't really give a fig about Afghan women. Probably,
I've never heard him talk about it before.
Probably only Jewish women really counts. But you see, he anglicized his name to hide his ethnicity. His actual name is Norman Swirsky.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's called...
You can do that?
It's called obscurantism. Yes, it happens all the time. And they're called conversals or moranos, that they are those who, in the old days, in the time of Ferdinand and Isabella, the Spanish Inquisition, the Jews were blocked from holding the best jobs, like in banking, that they really wanted. So many, but the Catholic monarchs left it open that if you converted to Catholicism, you could, in fact, work in these fields. So that was
very clever of the
yes.
Vatican to do that.
Yeah, so many, of course, so many Jews did convert to Christianity, and so many, in fact, that they were called conversos, or sometimes moranos. And I'm sure some were sincere, but most were considered to be Christians by day and Jews by night.
What's the root word there? Is that moron?
That has to do with...
It's my own humor.
Yeah, I know. Moranos. And, one thing that's not known is the Jesuits. They welcome the conversos to their highest ranks.
I'll bet they would, yeah.
Some who were rabbis only a year or two earlier were consecrated as bishops in this new Catholic program.
The Jesuits were the Vatican's CIA.
But why do American Jews change to such Anglo-Saxon names like Jonathan Swan? Why didn't he just name himself Norman Goldberg if he wanted to change his name, if he thought Swirsky was too Yiddish? It's...
Yeah, it is kind of
it is. It's called obscurantism.
And did he do that legally?
I'm sure he did, yeah. Sure, they can change your name legally.
Just a couple $100, right?
Then there was another in the news. Arnold Schwarzenegger was on a Zoom call when he proclaimed, "Screw your freedoms." Remember that?
Yeah.
About COVID?
Oh, yeah. Isn't he pathetic?
Yes. But did you see who was on the Zoom call with them?
No.
Former Lieutenant Colonel, as well as Defense Secretary of Ukraine and President of the United States, Alexander Vindman was on the call with them.
Oh, you know what? I did see an image of President Vindman, and I was wondering, why is that image up there? Now I know.
Yeah. He was on the call with me. He's got a best-selling book.
Something going on with Arnold?
Well, no, with Alexander. He's got a best-selling book called Here Right Matters.
I see.
You know, here, like in the White House, when he could listen in on the president's calls.
I see. Oh.
That's where the right matters.
Right.
Okay? So it's...
As he did during the Trump administration.
So he's found a way to scam money off the never-Trumpers. Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask a question in the last 5 minutes of the show. Is there any neocon female spokesperson more despised than Jennifer Rubin?
I don't think so.
Well, okay. Aside from Judith Miller.
Well, yeah, she is equally.
They're both equally bad, yeah. So her late Jennifer Rubin was in the news. Tucker talked about it, but her latest whopper consisted of fake news about COVID that she left up on her website even after it was debunked. The Texas Tribune falsely reported that 5,800 children had been hospitalized the first week of August in Texas. The paper was forced to correct that the number of 5,800 was actually for the entire pandemic.
Yeah.
So it went from 828 hospital admissions a day down to 19. But
and it was obviously an error on its face.
Yes. But Rubin refused to take down her tweet, claiming that Texas was a death cult, and she demanded the pro-lifers in Texas to rescue the children. Fox News even called her out on her refusal to take down her tweet, but she still wouldn't do it. And then she went on to say that mass vaccination of children was really pro-life.
Oh yeah, they're trying to use that from time to time. Yeah. How many in how many cases would that actually be the case?
Yeah.
Infinitesimal.
Yes.
Pretty pathetic.
So she doesn't really give a tinker's darn about children unless they're Jewish. I mean, she lied us into the Iraq War, where hundreds of thousands of Iraqi children died. She supports the Saudi bombardments of Yemen, starving and killing tens of thousands of children. But they're Arabs, so they don't count. When the news was announced for the first time that white teens are now a minority of teenagers under 18, and in fact the white U.S. population has declined by 5 million, she erupted with glee on Twitter. What a great victory, she proclaimed. A glorious day for diversity. But then she warned, but now we have to be careful that we have to fight white minority rule.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
That sounds like South Africa.
Right.
And you know, South Africa is what happens when you establish critical race theory in a country. I mean, the white people there, I mean, South Africa is now the rape country of the world. I mean, Nelson Mandela could hold it together with his sheer personality, but he even couldn't, control his wife, Winnie the necklacer.
Well, I was just going to say, what about his necklacing?
Yeah. It's a classic canard, so we have to be careful. But it's, and it's even bordering on an all-out trope, is that Jews are liars and create hoaxes to dazzle the goyim.
Huh.
But, anybody looking at Jennifer Rubin has to admit she looks like a real humanitarian. Who could doubt that angelic face isn't telling the truth?
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought when I saw her. Yeah.
And, if I believed in reincarnation, I'll bet in a former life she was stealing white Christian babies for strange Jewish rituals.
Yeah.
I don't have anything new for you on that. We'll circle back with you directly. If I can circle back, I'll circle back with you.
In 2007, actor Keanu Reeves told reporters that Hollywood elites drink the blood of children to get high. And in 2018, Mel Gibson repeated the charge. And some scientists believe that infant blood does contain a psychoactive substance, adrenochrome, that if you drink it,
I knew that.
Can induce schizophrenic hallucination. So, and adrenochrome is really not a controlled substance. It's legal. I don't know if it's made from humans, but it's used in lab experiments. And
well, we all know how important lab experiments are.
And aside from Jennifer, QAnon was that whole belief that Hillary Clinton and her associates were practicing these satanic rituals that originated in the Middle Ages and blamed on the Jews. But the question is not. I don't believe that Jennifer Rubin or other Jewish elites have to resort to crude kidnappings and religious rituals. But today, thanks to the modern military training that and how we support Israel and the neoliberal and neoconservative Jewish ideologies, they can eliminate almost any child if it benefits Israel and their tribe. They have the power to wipe out hundreds of thousands of children.
Because they're chosen.
They're children.